So, operant conditioning is when you do a behavior and it's followed by a consequence that either reinforces, makes it more likely for you to do that behavior again, or punishes, makes it less likely for you to do that behavior again. So, our psychologist for operant conditioning is B.F. Skinner. He kind of gave this concept a name in the 20th century, and he is actually named by some the most influential psychologist of the 20th century, which is a big deal since there were lots of advances in psychology during that time. Um, he was actually an English major and a writer who decided to try something new and went to graduate school for psychology. And like I mentioned, he became really big in the field of behavioral psychology, which is basically what we're talking about right now is behavioral psychology. It's all based on the outward behaviors that people are doing. And that's part of what makes him so controversial is that he kind of said that behaviors are everything and it's like separate from what our brain is doing. So the biopsych unit we just went over, he pretty much ignored all of that and just went straight to behaviors only things we can observe. Um, which is controversial a little bit because we know that our brain also works together like we learned in our last unit, but he definitely like just focused in on the behavior part. And he also wanted to use like operant conditioning just to like change the way people behave, which is like the whole thing, because he was doing experiments on animals to learn how their reward system works, and then kind of like, okay, well, this actually works on humans too. And people are like, whoa, 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 you're trying to like manipulate people and control the world or whatever. Um, just kidding. But, anyways, people were saying stuff like that. And he was like, well, like, I mean, this is already happening. Like, operant conditioning is already happening. Like, we just need to use it to our advantage so that we can like improve the world, make lives better. And it kind of worked. Like, this idea actually changed a lot of things in like how psychologists did things and also even how businesses do things. And it's like a huge part of life. Whether or not it had a name, but I think giving it a name and like doing all this research to discover how it actually works puts it into practice more often. Um, But B.F. Skinner actually kind of got the basic idea from somebody else named Edward L. Thorndike. And Edward L. Thorndike created this thing called the law of effect, which means that rewarded behaviors are more likely to recur while punished behaviors are less likely to recur. So, same kind of idea. B.F. Skinner just kind of expanded on that idea and did a lot more experiments, such as the Skinner box, which was where you put an animal inside of a box and then you try and get them to do a behavior to give them a reward. Some are very simple, some are more complicated, but a basic thing is like you put a rat inside a box and there's like a bar or a lever, and when they press the lever, it dispenses food. And so that's rewarding and reinforcing, positive reinforcements, and so they're like gonna press it more often. And this box kind of like measures how often they press it and stuff. Others are more complicated. They might have like an electric floor to like punish the animals. They've actually been able to do really like impressive things. Like they can get a pigeon to like spin around or peck at a red circle but not a green one. Um, yeah, pretty impressive. And this can actually have like practical uses. Like they can train the animals to like find tumors or find landmines by like, yeah, kind of training them. And how they train them is by shaping. And shaping just means guiding them to kind of like closer and closer to the desired behavior. So, kind of like in the hot cold game where you like say hot as they get closer and closer, and then when they like touch the desk, you like say hot more and stuff like that. But in this case, it'd be like the rat, once you put it in the box, it has no idea that pressing the lever is the desired behavior that will give it food. So maybe when it walks towards it, at first you give it food, then it needs to get closer, then it needs to touch it, you give it food, then it actually needs to press it, you give it food. So that's how you kind of teach them using shaping. And we watched this video about an experiment in college where they did some rat basketball, and it was like a project where each of the college students like takes a rat home and has to like train it to play basketball, like um so whenever the rat puts the basketball in the hoop, it gets obviously a mini basketball in the mini hoop, it gets a food. But obviously they probably had to train the rat first because it didn't know that, like when it walked toward the ball they would give it food, then it had to touch the ball, then it had to actually pick up the ball, and that's called shaping, where eventually it will finally get it and be able to do the desired behavior. um and with the pigeons, like I was mentioning in the Skinner box, they could like peck at a red circle but not a green one. So the red circle is called the discriminative stimulus because it's what they discriminate as, oh, okay, red, that means I get food. And you can actually take this to the next level and teach a pigeon to recognize like a human face, um, or different types of objects, and then they'll be able to like categorize these things. So pigeons are able to actually recognize, once you train them using shaping, they're able to recognize this discriminative stimulus, which is what gives them the reward. So they're like, oh, person, if I peck that picture or if I peck the red circle, that means I get food. Um, so yeah, it's pretty amazing, and that reinforcement goes a long way. Um, they can yeah, like I mentioned, like you could train animals to find tumors, landmines, that type of thing.